Good afternoon. Welcome to our board meeting this afternoon. Welcome, Larry. I appreciate you being here today. If you're able, please stand for the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With that, if we could have a motion to adopt today's agenda.
I'll motion to adopt today's agenda.
And a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One more motion. We're going to have a public hearing, so if we could have a motion to go into a public hearing.
I will so move.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are now in our public hearing. Mr. Livingston.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, administration, and staff, ladies and gentlemen. So if you,
Singular or plural?
which one?
Well.
Everyone out in YouTube land.
Just eliminate the lady and singular gentleman.
Oh, okay,
Single.
okay,
Sorry about that.
okay.
We're
So,
silly already.
so I've got 2 or 3 things. I'm just going to try to go step 1, step 2, step 3, and then make a real quick summary of our proposed budget for next year. So I've been working on this since with Cindy and with Superintendent Joe for, gosh, probably 8 months. And things just keep working in our favor as far as funding goes. If you've ever walked under an apple tree and someone's at the top and stuff just keeps falling into your bucket of apples, I've only done that once. But that seems to kind of be what we're dealing with in some cases. If we can direct you to then the 3rd page. First page has some numbers on it. 2nd page has your staff with names on it. 3rd page has a nice picture of our big operating budget. And its landscape, nice and sideways for you. So if you just go to the far right and you see the increase percent, decrease percent, and then back up to the 2 under the title totals here. Now, do you have a copy, Superintendent Karen, over there? So under totals, you look at last year, prior year 23 on the left, and then budget year 24 on the right. And you just kind of do a comparison and tic-tac down and see which ones went up, which ones went down. If you followed all the way to the bottom, you see last year's budget, $18,075,056. This year's budget, $19,860,000. And there's 3 factors behind that. You can kind of parse them into 3 little pieces. About $350,000 was just new money per student from the state. And that is designed, that is supposed to be a 2% increase on $4,700. They gave us a little bit more than that. So about 350 of that 1.8 million came from new student money, not new student money, same numbers, but a little bit more per pupil, about 350,000 there. Then if you jump back to page 7, and that same little spot there, page 7 of 8, go back 4 pages if you want to, you can see the way our budget's put together. And we have at the top number 18.2 million in our operating fund from our revenue limit. We're projecting about 830,000. If you follow that page down, 832,000. We're saying of the 18 million we have in the 23 year, about 830,000 will not be spent. So on a budget of 18 even, or 1875, 18,075,000, we'll spend about 17.1, maybe 17.2. So that 832,000 is available to add on to the 24 budget. And then this is the pair of apples that kind of fell out of the sky. If you go down to line 10, estimated allocation of additional funding, 2016 Prop 123. They funded that again, isn't that nice? That's our share based on student count, 0.002. That's how many, that's our percentage of the students in the state, 0.002. So the 75 million that was funded there, our share is the 152,000. And then you drop down to line 11, ring the bell, praise the legislature for seeing that we have needs. This is our share, the same percentage of 300 million, the 611, 400. And that's, I've never seen that before in one of these. Estimated allocation of one-time state aid supplement. It's a distribution of extra revenue from the state. So that's an add-on. So between those 3 numbers, the 611, the 156, the carryover of 800,000, and then the unspent from last year, the increased funding, that's our 1.8 million. And that's basically where we're at with our operating fund. Any questions or discussions on that number? And then let's turn then to page 8, just go to the next page. And so page 8 is to me quite interesting as well. This is a real quick look at our capital. And our capital, you go to the top right now for the 23 year, it's 2.9 million, 965, and that's with additions, because we've been really diligent the last few years in moving money from M&O capacity over to capital. We're just kind of sitting on it because we know people are coming back to M&O once the ESSER funds and the COVID funds run out. So that's our goal, is to move funds into there. And so if we look at the expenses, we're going to spend 2.2 million. There's a question there on expenses. We know we've spent 330,000 already on Pronghorn to do the mini houses. If we get an invoice in the next couple of days and we spend that, then this 2.2 million that we spent this year will jump to 2.4 almost. And then we'll be asking Coconino County, because they're the fiscal agent for that grant, we'll be asking them for 500,000 cash. Then the other 930,000 doesn't come from 610. It comes from Kansas State Bank going around the district right to Pronghorn. And we make the debt service of 138,000 a year to keep that 930,000. So the 2.2 million is not done yet. We do have some encumbrances there, but that's what I'm estimating the expense and capital will be. So we follow that down and we say we have 1.8 million, and then we add their carryover 2.6 million. So we jump back to page 7. They say, well, what's our actual capital budget? Actual capital budget for this year, we go back to page 7, we can actually spend, pages here, is the 1,844 is, again, they're different numbers. It's a little confusing here. 1,844 is on page 8 there, but the 2,000,006 is what we can actually spend. And then that's really what we have here. We have in 010, that's our new classroom site fund. The revenues are holding steady. We've been getting 160,000 a month. So we started last year with 700,000 cash already in the account beginning. We're going to end this year with at least 700,000 cash. That's why we're able to take the classroom site fund payments for teachers from 11,000 last year up to 13,000 going into the 24 year. But we're very sensitive to cash on that. So if it goes down from that 160,000 a month based on our enrollment, we'll probably be in the 24-25 year coming back and say we'd have to scale that teacher payment from 13,000 back to 11. But you can see with the beginning cash that we've been able to just sit on, we want to keep that 13,000 for at least 4 or 5 more years, so we don't like fiscal cliffs if we can avoid it. But it does allow us to cost average, so to speak, or pay average a longer period of time, even if the state economy slows down, because that's all based on sales tax, 0.10. So that's the summary. How we could get in that position of having flat growth, so to speak, but take our M&O budget up by 1.8 million. That's how it happened.
Okay.
Any questions?
John, just a real quick question to the other John. John, are we still projecting just a slight enrollment increase for this coming school year?
I believe the numbers that we used were a flat enrollment.
Okay.
So any increase in enrollment would be,
More benefit.
yes, would be,
More apples.
yeah, more apples, exactly.
More.
Okay. Great.
So
That's better.
that's what we've done for many years is a flat projection.
Mhm.
And I think it may be conservative, but I think it's appropriate.
It's fiscally smart.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Seeing it's a public hearing, would any public like to speak on our? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved. And seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to our consent agenda, items A through H. Again, motion to approve consent agenda.
I will motion to approve this consent agenda.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Keep on moving. Let's see if I get this correct. Item 7A, Special Ed Coordinator, new title, updated job description, Mr. Schultz.
So this is currently a position that we have. And we're just we are having trouble filling the position. So we wanted to come up with a more detailed job description so that we may be able to attract some additional people. This really is somebody does IEPs basically. And they train people how to do IEPs. That seems to be one of the biggest hurdles, biggest time sucks that our special ed teachers have, and this position tries to relieve some of that pressure. And we had one that moved to a different district this past year, and we do also contract out some of our IEPs to basically ex-employees that have moved. They just do them remotely. And so we're trying to find ways to do this. This is just a position that we have not filled. We're trying to kind of change things so that we can get it filled.
John, am I correct then every special ed student has to have their own individual IEP?
That is correct. And at 20%, that's almost 500, over 500 IEPs that we are currently.
Are they good for the year, or do they have to be updated during the year?
They have to be updated annually. And then on top of that, there's a psych eval that has to be done every 3 years. Yes.
I know it's a huge paperwork burden.
It is. We get audited, or we've been audited fairly frequently, it seems like, from the Department of Education, the special ed department down there. And it's something that we have to be very particular with. And in addition, it's very important because we're hoping that, if we get our APs in line, that we can actually do some billing through MIPS to generate another apple.
I'm loving the apples.
That may help, relieve some of the budget pressures that we have. And MIPS is really a Medicare reimbursement program. So we have people that we have employees that are actually doing healthcare for some of our special needs kids. That can be reimbursed. Our travel for special need kids can be reimbursed. So there's some Medicare reimbursement that we can actually apply for. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. John, is that kind of in that range?
Easily over 400,000 a year.
So that'll help a lot then.
Yeah, so we're trying to recoup some of our special ed costs, and having those IEPs in the right format and is vital to doing that.
I'm sure it says it somewhere in here. Is this a full-time position?
It is full-time.
12 months?
No, it does say, I think it said
What is
that
it?
it was,
10. Same with teachers.
1,560 hours is under salary and contract pay.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, so, John, this is becoming, instead of having a certified administrator, you're trying to get essentially technician to just handle IEPs, and we're going to forego the administrative position?
No, it's not an administrative position now. It's not replacing the special ed director. So that you hired is Maya Caldwell.
That's what I thought, okay.
And so
now-
this is a different position that reports to the special ed director. It is not a classroom teacher,
Got it.
but that trains the special ed staff on how to do IEPs, and it's something we have now. This is just clarifying, it's not a new position, just clarifying the role of this person.
So we already have an
I
assistant.
got it. I understand.
So this position reports to the special ed director and the assistant director, which is Joe Coomer and Maya Caldwell.
So do we have someone for this right now or not?
No, we don't. That's the problem. We're trying to come up with a better job description to maybe attract more possible candidates.
So clarification question then. So the person that left, don't have to get too much into detail, but some candidates for this position might be certified teachers that have experience with IEPs
Absolutely.
that might want to do part-time work, weekend work. Is that
We may, depending ideally is to have a full-time person in this position. That's ideal. If we can't do that, we may contract this out to, it would be more than one existing staff member as kind of extra duty. That is one possibility. We also have a former special ed teacher that may do it part-time. So we may job share this amongst multiple staff members, but ideally, one person doing this is what we're looking for.
And these are the funds that you could use however you wish to administer it.
For this position, yeah. We can take this one FTE and split that one FTE however we need to. Ideally, though, we want a full-time person.
Fantastic. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 7A. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion.
Do it,
The
Peter.
silence is deafening. Yeah, I move that we approve a new title and job description for the special ed coordinator as shown on the agenda.
Second,
I will second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to 8A is the proposed budget. Mr. Livingston.
Well, we were in a hearing a while ago. And we had a little discussion about that. Just to summarize, the really good news is that the Department of Ed is receiving more support, I would say, from the legislature. And as a result of that increased support, there's increased funds available. Our operating budget, $1.8 million increase. We were able to an additional, if you looked at the top of page 7 there, still move $500,000 over to capital for safekeeping, so to speak, because we know at the end of this coming year, 23-24, we are going to have a migration of staff back to our operating fund once the ESSER funds, COVID funds run down. So it's very good news. If everything holds, there could be a slight increase if our expenses this year are slightly less. There's an estimate on that $832,000 that bumps up next year's budget, but that's a pretty solid estimate. So.
John, just real, and I should have asked this earlier. Do all of our ESSER and COVID federal funds run out during this fiscal year, or do we still have some left for next fiscal year?
So you're talking this year, the 23 year, 22, 23?
Yeah, no, the 23, 24
Because
year.
we're right at that little pinnacle of 2 years here.
Yeah.
So 23, 24 comes and goes. Now it's June of 24.
Mhm.
These 2 grants, ESSER 2, that started with 1.5 million and now has less than 80,000 left. At this time next year, it'll probably have less than 30,000 left. But to your point, we do start the 24-25 year, and those funds end September 30th of 24.
Okay.
ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. So all of next year, and then 3 months of the
And then we're
24-25.
dead right in the beginning of the following fiscal year then.
Yep.
Okay.
Our goal, John and Cindy Daniels and I have spoken, and our goal is to really be done with the ESSER funds by June of 24. So that we don't rely on any expenditures.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing would be any kind of, I'll call it loose change,
Uh-huh.
any kind of, we want to make sure we spend every single dime. So anything that's left over after we do it, we may use to pay for some of those, but we don't want to rely on ESSER to pay for salaries in 24, 25. We want to be clear of ESSER funds so that we can kind of move forward without those.
And I understand what John was saying earlier about this coming fiscal year, trying to make sure we can transition funds to be available as those start to drop off. I was just curious if at the end of next fiscal year, they're all done, but you say there's a dribble that we're going to make sure we don't have to play with in 24, 25.
Yes.
Yeah, great, thank you.
I have a few things if you
Please.
don't. A couple things I want to point out. If you look at the primary tax rate, the primary tax rate is actually going down from 3.73% to 3.69%. Even though our the budget is going up, the assessed valuation in the district, so the value of all the properties in the district has gone up as well, lowering the tax rate to get the amount that's required from the tax base. I also want to show the secondary tax rate, which is all those things that are extra, M&O overrides, the capital overrides, things like that is 0. We don't have any bonds or anything that's on top of the normal revenue streams. So I want to point that out. If you look at the bottom right-hand portion of that front page, it has our teacher salaries. Our average teacher salary is going from 51,846 to 55,646. or increasing $3,800, and which is about 7%. So that's always good. We want to try to, something that I've been tasked with since my first day as superintendent is to try to get those teacher salaries up. And so this is just another indicator. We will be, something that's going to be in addition to the budget, that's kind of ancillary to the budget, that we'll be working on or with in July at our July 13th board meeting. Just as a note, it's a Thursday, it's a different day. So July 13th board meeting is our adjacent ways. So we're going to have adjacent ways funding on top of this that will, you guys will be discussing at that meeting.
And that'll be the public hearing also for adjacent ways.
There's going to be 2 public hearings because we have to have another one for the budget and then a separate one for adjacent ways.
But all in the July meeting.
Yes.
Just one more add-on then. So if we just stay with adjacent ways and go to the very back page of the, I guess this is 15 pages, you see truth and taxation, fiscal year 24. We've discussed and therefore published, it's coming out in Wednesday's paper, the 28th. We've discussed raising the levy from 100,000 a year to 250,000 a year. That would increase the rate from $4.46 to $9.93. So a home valued at $200,000 would have 2 of those units. So each $100,000 unit would have a tax of $9.93. So that's gone up, but we're going to need those funds for finishing off the teacherage over here, the building. And there's a lot of chip seal and bus lane and fire lane jobs that we can use these funds for. So,
And I think we talked about how expensive it was just to do the parking lot at Del Rio, which had doubled in price just there was some engineering that we had to do, so there was an additional cost to that, but I think.
Hasn't it been 100,000 forever and ever and ever?
Yes,
As long as I can remember.
Yeah.
since it's probably been 12 years,
Oh, even more than that.
I
You
would
know.
say so.
Yeah.
so probably it was 100,000, I think, before I came into the district office as the business manager, so, yeah. And 100,000, 14, 15 years ago, it's a little different than $100,000 today.
Well, that's why I wanted to put that on the record, is that this has never been increased, at least since I have any memory of this district.
And the assessed value then for this year's budget, the 22-23 budget was 233,600,000. The one for 24 is 251,800,000. So it went up 18 million, almost 16% increase.
So many of those houses that are going in down at Depot Ranch are in our school district.
That one.
And I believe there's a good chunk that is going to be annexed by the city of Prescott to move some houses into a different location outside of the airport zone. I believe that area is going to be in our school district as well.
I saw that in the paper, but they didn't show where that map, where it was. So
I could be wrong, but I believe it is, but I do know that some of the houses that are currently in place down there are in our district, so. And then there's a lot of construction going on around town, and all that stuff is adding to the assessed valuation, and it's kind of spreading the tax burden amongst more people.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, this is an action item. If we can get a motion to approve our 23-24 budget.
I will approve I will have a motion to approve the 23-24 budget.
Second, please. Yeah. Would you just for the record, Marcia, would you pretty please read?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just that part right there.
just to make it.
Approve. The 23-24 proposed budget per factors provided by the AD school finance unit factor of base, level, amount, and student counts will result in further revisions to be required. Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
the whole thing. Okay.
Then I'll second it.
Thank you. All in
I'm
favor?
sorry.
Aye.
Peter.
Well, it's not a
Did we all
problem,
say
but
aye?
aye.
Did we all say aye, Ken?
Yes.
All right.
Marcia,
Thank you.
it's just that further revisions may be required is important
Oh, okay.
to
I
be,
got
to
you.
be in the motion.
That's
Just gives the administration flexibility.
we're done, huh?
Same
We're
three.
done. Huh?
You're done.